Iowa State can get back into the winning column going up against Colorado today.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. Joined alongside me is our analyst, Sophia Jones. I'm Kalia Butler. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, so some fun ones to get into today. We're going to have maybe a little debate later, but honestly, Sophia and I agree on most things. But we are going to see who can stop UConn. Will UConn repeat for another national championship? Texas Tech remains undefeated, and some SEC games that happened last night. But first, Big 10 and Big 12 are going to take over your screens today. We're going to start with number 19, Iowa State, going up against Colorado. Now, if you tune into Locked On Women's Basketball every day, as you should and as I would hope you do, we know that Iowa State is on a little bit of a difficult run right now. They are 14-3 overall, dropping 3 contests in a row. They're on a 3-game losing streak. Started off against number 22 Baylor, then they dropped to Cincinnati, West Virginia. Today, I think they have the opportunity to bounce back and maybe have a little confidence boost like we saw LSU do, and then they were able to beat Texas. I have the same utmost confidence for Iowa State. However, they're going to really need to lock in on this one. If they drop 4 contests in a row, it's going to be a level of concern. If they can get back into this one, find their rhythm again, I think they'll be on a safe path.
I agree, because before this 3-game losing streak, they were undefeated and looking really strong against some quality opponents. They beat a ranked Iowa in that rivalry. They beat Kansas, Indiana. So they picked up some really quality wins going into Big 12 play and then dropped these recent ones, one of them coming to Baylor. That is another ranked opponent. But the Cincinnati one specifically, I think it was a little concerning because Cincinnati hadn't put together a convincing resume to really look like Cincinnati didn't really put together a convincing resume that looked like before the matchup Iowa State was going to lose. And then West Virginia, they've been going in and out of the rankings, so that's understandable. But Iowa State, I think they need to get this win. I would say this is probably their most important game of the year because Colorado is a pretty beatable team. They look capable that can compete physically, especially at home. That game will be at home in Boulder. But for Iowa State, I think the emphasis before this game and during this time of practices has to have been defense and just getting their rotations right, figuring out how to be on the same page as a team again. And I would say get that 3-point shooting back up. It's been in a little bit of a lull during this 3-game losing streak, which, of course, when you're not connecting from 3, that just drags and sucks everyone in to the interior where they can double, triple, quadruple Audie Crooks, which is not going to be the way that Iowa State wins.
Yeah, I'd love to see that kind of inside-outside game that we had seen from Iowa State. I felt like at the beginning of their season, they were a threat from anywhere offensively. And to your point, I think it's less of an offensive concern. You'd like to see a little bit more of a balance between that inside-outside, Audie Crooks, Jada Williams. But to your point, defense has been the problem in some of these losses in this 3-game losing streak that they've had. Colorado is a team that doesn't have a lot of consistent perimeter shooting. So that means Iowa State's going to want to pack the paint to limit drives. But we have also seen Iowa State not do great at that at times as well. So as you mentioned, this is going to be a big game to really cement Iowa State as maintaining their dominance in the Big 12 and being one of those contenders, especially when you have an Audie Crooks on your team. She needs to kind of step up for this Cyclones group and get the job done. Another big one today in the Big 10. Number 3, UCLA going up against Minnesota. I think this is going to be a really fun matchup because Minnesota is coming off a really big upset over USC, which was ranked at number 21 at the time. USC has since dropped out of the rankings because Minnesota defeating them. Obviously, UCLA is just a powerhouse team in general. They've only lost one game so far this season, and that was to Texas. So they are remaining undefeated in conference play. We've talked about the amount of threats that are on that team. Obviously, you look towards Lauren Betts, but when we're talking about a team that has inside, outside, the guards at UCLA really set the tone as well. So this is going to be a tough one for Minnesota, but if they can pull it off, impressive if they can go back-to-back in terms of beating ranked opponents.
Definitely. Ranked opponents from LA, especially. But UCLA, they really look like they've been on a roll since Big Ten play, specifically Lauren Betts. After that Texas loss, she suffered a little bit of an arm injury, and it really looks like she's fully back in her own rhythm now, getting doubles on any given night. She picked up, I think it was about almost 5 steals, or if 5 steals the other game. So really being the anchor on both ends of the ball for UCLA. But for Minnesota, if they can compete with that physicality, I think if they can try to speed UCLA up and especially just lock down on what Lauren Betts tries to do in the interior and then scramble out of it, that would be their key to getting this upset.
Another Big 12 matchup, number 10, TCU going up against West Virginia. Both these teams are 4-1 in Big 12 play. For the Horned Frogs, obviously, Olivia Miles, the engine behind their offense and essentially everything they do. She really keeps the composure for them. But West Virginia coming off a good win against Iowa State, a team that has bounced in and out of the AP polls. They are really good with second chance opportunities. So this is going to be another really good matchup and going to just keep the Big 12 competitive. Honestly, looking at some of these games and some of these matchups, the Big 12 is going a little bit underrated here. We talk about the SEC, we talk about the Big 10, but they are some tough opponents in the Big 12.
There really are. I mean, even looking at TCU, they're 4-1 in Big 12 play, and their only loss came to Utah, who is another opponent that has really shown to be a strong contender and competitive throughout the conference. But like you said, it's going to be dependent on Olivia Miles and how she can set the tone for her team. But for West Virginia, they consistently competed against these ranked opponents. They've been one themselves. They not just competed, but beat the ranked opponents. So TCU is definitely going to have to make sure that they watch out against the transition they need to defend in transition and make sure that they're rebounding at a high level to compete against West Virginia. They already dropped that one game, and they were looking like a very strong favorite for the Big 12 title. And right now they're actually in second place. So they need to get a little redemption going.
Back to the Big 10, Penn State going up against number 14, Ohio State, who is home to one of the best guards in college basketball right now in Jeloni Cambridge. Penn State still looking for their first win within conference play. Going to be hard to do that against Ohio State, who's coming off their own win against a ranked opponent, which was an upset at the time against Maryland. So they've had a really strong overall performance. And then, as I mentioned, Cambridge just kind of at the helm of that.
Definitely. And her going up against Penn State's Keomi McMiller will be a really interesting show to watch for people who are unfamiliar with Keomi McMiller. She transferred from Rutgers. She can score extremely dynamically and honestly has probably one of the deepest bags in women's basketball in college. She has the ball on a string, just watching her handles. It's very Kyrie-esque, if I will say. So that is going to be a very great backcourt battle.
Speaking of Kyrie was at my DePaul University the other day when the Mavs were here, and no one was going to tell me about it. I see all these people posting pictures. I was like, that is my favorite basketball player. Who was going to hit me up? Anyway, sorry. Besides the point, last one to watch out for, number 18, Baylor going up against Utah, going to be another fun one. Baylor, you got to deal with Talia Scott, who is averaging 20 points per game right now. Utah, a very physical team. They've had that as their identity for quite some time now. So it's going to be kind of a battle of offensive power, but Utah has a really strong defense too.
Definitely. Then this is another, again, it's early in conference play, so a lot of these teams are bunched together, but Baylor and Utah, they share the same 4-1 record. So want to create a little bit of separation as early as possible when you can. But Baylor, they're coming off of that win against Iowa State. They've looked really solid. Utah, they beat TCU at home in overtime. So they've shown to be competitive against these teams. This will be a really close matchup.
Coming up after this, we're going to recap some ranked teams that we saw last night that walked away with victories. Friday always feels different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the game tips off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Opening the FanDuel app during happy hour always brings something new: boosts, bonuses, and surprises. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. The new year is here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. For me, somebody that has a little bit of an interesting schedule, if I don't have games, I'm typically at home doing things, recording my podcast, and doing anything else I need to do. So while I'm in my space, I want to feel comfortable doing so, and that's why I look to Wayfair. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh all in one place. Whether you're updating your living room, organizing your space, or upgrading your work from home setup, just like me, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and budget. I love that I could find pieces that match my style without spending a fortune on it. Get organized, refreshed, and back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Okay, a little last night recap. Number 21, Alabama went against Missouri. They won it 74-63. Some key performances: Carly Weathers for Alabama had a career high 23 points, was 9 of 13 shooting, including 2 threes, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. So she led the Crimson Tide offensively. Jessica Timmons helped out too, 16 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, had solid two-way contributions. And then Tamia Scott, 15 points, 7 rebounds, 5 steals. They were really locking down defensively, getting some stops, which helped their offense flow a little bit more. But Alabama kind of cementing themselves as building their way up in the AP polls and showing why they should not be messed with.
Exactly. They're 17-1 on the season and a 3-1 SEC record. So their only loss of the season has come at the hands of South Carolina, which a lot of teams can probably say that and echo the same sentiment. But Alabama, going into that game against Missouri, they were coming off of a win against Kentucky, 64-51. So actually a little bit of a convincing win against a team that is in the top 10, really making their name in the SEC. But like you said, Alabama is really proving why the SEC is so deep and cementing themselves amongst the different powerhouses. I think most people, when they think about the conference, you automatically go to probably a South Carolina, Tennessee, a newly Texas, LSU. But Alabama really is going to be here to stay. For people that remember their run last year in the NCAA tournament, specifically that game with Sarah Ashley Barker absolutely went nuclear. They're not going to be a program that just rolls over at any point soon.
And I love that you bring that up, because I think when I really started paying attention to Alabama was during the Sarah Ashley Barker time, because they had played against Syracuse. And I just remember her coming on the court. I was like, who is she? Like, I didn't know too much about her at that point just yet. This was right before the draft and everything. Syracuse did end up winning that game, but Sarah Ashley Barker was making it incredibly difficult for them to even win that game. She is just an outstanding shooter. I don't know if anybody has seen this video of her basically playing against like a women's basketball hater. She went 1v1 against him and won. And I think that day he became an Alabama lover, as everybody else should, especially behind Sarah Ashley Barker. But they shot pretty efficiently from the floor, 42% overall. They were pretty limited in their turnovers. Mizzou was as well. They finished with 11 turnovers. So everyone was protecting the ball pretty well. But another game to watch out that happened last night was number 17, Texas Tech, went up against Houston. They won 71-59. Texas Tech, we talk about, this conference, and Texas Tech specifically has gone undefeated now. They're one of very few teams, one of just 3 teams that remain undefeated in the AP polls right now. And they do that for a reason. Texas Tech forced 27 Houston turnovers, converting them into 23 points. And that was a big factor for the Lady Raiders.
Exactly. It's not too often that you actually commit 21 turnovers yourself and you win the game by 12 points. But when you can force 27 turnovers on the other end, it helps to cancel that ball security or lack thereof aspect out. But they're just really getting it done from a defensive standpoint, pretty balanced on offense. But Texas Tech, I think they started the season going a little bit under the radar, but they absolutely have to be on people's radar now because they are undefeated completely. They're at the top by themselves in Big 12 rankings. And because the Big 12 is so expanded, not every team has a chance to play each other twice. And I bring that up because I looked up the Big 12 seeding and tiebreaker procedures, and it's a lot. I won't even go over all of it, but just know that it's a lot where essentially you'll go so head to head, and if that's a tiebreaker, then it goes to the team's winning percentage to the highest seeds, and then they work their way down. And then a comparison of tied teams, conference games, only road winning percentage, and a comparison of teams tied conference games, only one winning percentage versus the teams in the highest position. So there's a very long laundry list of these tiebreaker procedures. But again, I bring that up because looking at some of the top end talent in the Big 12, you look at Texas Tech right there, number 1, also throwing in TCU, of course, who is number 2, but there is so much talent there at the top that you don't want to have to get into too much of a tiebreaker situation, which is why for Texas Tech, getting these wins now early is going to be really important for them down the line.
Absolutely. They're 6-0 in Big 12 play, as you mentioned, sitting alone at the top, 19-0 overall. And they've already tied the program's single season win streak record. And looking ahead at their schedule, they play Kansas State, BYU, then Utah. Given the way that they are playing and the momentum that they have, I could see them continuing that streak as we look ahead. But coming up after this, we're going to have a little discussion. Who can stop UConn from repeating once again?
Finding a doctor you actually like can feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. You want someone in network, nearby, with availability. But you also want a doctor who really listens, makes you feel comfortable, explains things clearly, and helps you walk out feeling confident about your next step. Your quote-unquote diamond in the rough doctor exists, and finding them is easy with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can choose someone you truly connect with. I actually recently booked a dentist appointment through ZocDoc, and it really is a seamless process. And if I can put any kind of comparison, ZocDoc is a little bit like Yelp for doctors. I personally love Yelp. I don't go to a single restaurant without looking at Yelp. And ZocDoc is exactly like that. You can honestly just keep scrolling and look whoever matches your vibe. There's such a wide variety, in person and virtual. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA to find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this message. It's 2026, and if you're still paying rent without Bill, it is time for a change. Bill is a loyalty program for renters that rewards you for your biggest monthly expense, rent. I live in San Francisco and Bay Area in general. I know a thing or two about rent and how out of hand it truly can get. But with Bill, every rent payment earns you points that you can use towards flights, hotels, Lyft rides, Amazon.com purchases, and so much more. And here's something I'm really excited about. Starting in February, Bilt members can earn points on mortgage payments for the first time. Soon, you'll be able to get rewarded wherever you live and unlock exclusive benefits with more than 45,000 different restaurants, fitness studios, pharmacies, and other neighborhood partners. Personally, I live pretty close to a core power, and I'm trying to be a little bit more de-stressed in this 2026. So I plan to use my Bilt points a little bit at some core power yoga. So join the loyalty program for renters at joinbilt.com/lockedonwomen. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonwomen. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you.
Okay, the question arises as, I was telling Sophia before we hopped on today that I saw a post that the Big Ten championship for women's basketball is coming up in 50 days, which means, I know that's still plenty of time, but that means that the end of the season is near and March Madness is quickly approaching, whether we really think of it or not. And UConn has cemented themselves as number one in the polls the entire season so far. And I'm curious to see, when it comes to a game situation where, let's say we're in the Final Four, you're going up against UConn, who can surpass UConn, or even if it were in the national championship, who can possibly surpass UConn to upset this team that has been ranked number one for so long? Some of the top challengers are going to be some of the same as who we saw from last season, which would be a Texas, South Carolina, UCLA, who all have a loss each, and those losses are coming to each other from each other, essentially, because Texas beat South Carolina and UCLA. That also made up the 2025 Final Four in Tampa last season, but it could look very similar in Phoenix this year when we're looking at those top AP spots, which all these teams hold. I think Texas, as of right now, I understand that they just lost to LSU, but I think as of right now, Texas still may be one of the most competitive teams that UConn could possibly face, or a UCLA. I don't want to discredit South Carolina in this conversation, but I'm just thinking at how the brackets may or may not look. I think as of right now, it's going to be Texas or UCLA that could be the teams to stop UConn. I look at a UCLA because you have that interior presence of Lauren Betts, who is a little bit taller in comparison to a Sarah Strong, if that's a matchup going up against each other. But if you're just thinking of interior presence in general, it's hard to be a 6'7" player, especially with the maturity level that UCLA has right now. They've been so close these past couple of years, and I think this is the redemption season in terms of the seniors that they have on this team. But then you also look at a Texas Tech, who, you've said it so many times, they are just so efficient offensively, defensively locked down really well too. UConn, it's difficult because it's not a team that has any blatant faults in their system or in their game. But I think as of right now, Texas and UCLA would be my top two to possibly defeat the Huskies.
I would say at my number one to defeat the Huskies would be Texas. And I will bring up specifically in 2017, the Final Four matchup when Mississippi State beat a heavily favored UConn, had all the names on that team. So it was a major upset for Mississippi State to get that win. But Vic Schaefer was the coach. Vic Schaefer is now currently the coach at Texas. So he has experience in going up against Gino Auriemma. And when your top end talent is so good, I think that's almost where it starts to become a little bit of a coaching battle and who can out scheme the other. And Vic Schaefer has proven to do that before. So that's where I would give Texas a little bit of the edge there. But UCLA, I think if they truly can get desperate enough, they could also pull off the win because they have all the right pieces, like we mentioned before. Only one loss this season, and they've looked really, really strong ever since then. They have the inside-out duality game. So I definitely think that with all the upperclassmen that they have, again, if they can truly get desperate enough, they could pull off the upset, because truly that is sometimes what matters down the stretch and in March is who wants it more. But I definitely don't want to discount or count out South Carolina. I'm monitoring if Alicia Tornabes will be able to play soon. She is eligible. Coach Staley said that she was ramping up last week. But if she potentially gets incorporated into their system, she could be a major contributor and just give South Carolina a little bit more depth. That's the little bit of the question that I have right now in their ability to compete against UConn, is because UConn is just so deep. And South Carolina is lacking a little bit of that, but it could be improved if Tornabes does decide to play.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the same thing when it comes to South Carolina. Very curious to see this matchup against Texas, just about kind of the longevity of their depth once they get to March, hoping that they don't experience any further serious injuries, whatever the case may be. But UConn, just very difficult to beat in general, 17-0 overall. But I think what comes into question at the time too, UConn has showed that even though that they play in the Big East and they're blowing out teams left and right, that they are still competitive in March. But I think Texas also gives a good run for their money because they are also going up against SEC opponents weekly, who we have seen time and time again that no matter who you're playing in the SEC, you can lose a game that night. Obviously, we saw them drop to LSU. Does that maybe better prepare them for post-conference play? We don't know, but I think that would be a matchup I would love to see.
Definitely. But UConn also did have a really solid non-conference schedule where they competed and won against some ranked opponents. So I think that could also help to carry them over maybe a little bit of a weaker conference schedule.
Well, we're almost there. We are approaching March, but as of right now, we're still in conference play. So we'll get into some of those games tomorrow, give you some games to preview for the following day. But thank you so much for watching Locked On Women's Basketball.